athletes. In this video, we're going to explore one of the most important concepts or theories for our athletic performance. We're going to talk about activation of the glutes. Now, in some of our introductory videos and some of our preliminary videos, we talked about why these muscles are important. For a variety of reasons, they have the ability to contribute the largest amount of force, and they are absolutely the primary contributors for many of our on-field components, such as running, jumping, changing direction, etc. So we need to make sure that we are training these muscles, that we understand what they're supposed to feel like and how we're supposed to integrate them in both basic and complex exercises. So in this video, we're going to explore what we call the glute bridge. And it is our very basic foundation component, and it is important that we master this before we move on to anything else, and that we understand what it really feels like. Recognize in advance that this is going to look very simple, but the challenge is in the communication from the brain to the muscle, from the software to the hardware. Can we teach this so it becomes automatic? So, as a preliminary conversation, if I asked you to flex your bicep, no problem. To flex your abs, no problem. But if I asked you to flex your butt, to squeeze, for many athletes, that's not as automatic. But why is that? That seems so irregular. There is no difference between this muscle and this muscle and this muscle and this muscle. They're all the same. And that we should have the same automatic availability to communicate with them, to use them on a regular basis. So, in our glute bridge, let's talk some setup stuff. So, first things first, we're starting, lying on our back, neutral spine, a little bit of stomach tension is a good idea. Hands relaxed at the side, at least for now. And what we're looking to do is establish roughly a 90-degree angle at the knees. Now you'll notice that I have really exaggerated my foot position. I have really settled into the heels. As mentioned in other videos, there is a very strong relationship between heels and glutes, the butt muscles. So I have really placed the heels onto the ground in order to help facilitate this position. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to see if I can squeeze the butt. Squeeze and release. Squeeze and release. If that's easy, perfect. That's a great first step. But if that was challenging, maybe you need some secondary feedback. So the first trick that I use is to take the hands and to actually put them on the butt. So the reason we do this is you can sense, you can feel through your brain and through the butt when the muscle is on. But if it was challenging, maybe you need extra feedback. And the fingers are very sensitive. They feel easily if the muscle is developing tension. So we use that just to really tell you if it's successful or not. So same thing, squeeze and release. Squeeze and release. If that was more successful, fantastic. This now takes us into the actual exercise, the actual motion. So bear with me, we're going to go step by step. But the first thing that we want to do is squeeze the butt. Keep the abs tight, press into the ground, and elevate all the way through into a straight line from knees to shoulders. And back down. Same thing, reset, squeeze, and lift. And down. So, as I briefly noted, that doesn't look like a very complex exercise. But for many athletes, they either don't feel the work happening in the glutes, or they don't feel it in the glutes, and they feel it in other locations. So, imagine myself lying on the ground. As I lifted my body, recognize that there are three major regions that could lift me up. The hamstrings, the glutes, and the low back. Now, depending on who you are as an athlete, maybe all three contributed. Maybe it was 33%, 33%, 33%. But in this particular sequence, we don't want 33, 33, 33. We want 90% from the glutes, and 5% from the hamstrings, and 5% from the low back. We want to train the glutes to do so much more for us. So one of the tricks that we play with is with a training partner, with a coach, or just sort of playing on your own, is that we want to see that the hamstrings are quite relaxed. We don't want to feel like they're super turned on, that they're really, really engaged. And I'll admit that as an overlying theory, this is not easy. For many athletes who traditionally rely on their quads and their hamstrings to generate force, turning this off is no simple task. This is rewiring some very important patterns in your brains for performance. So let's explore this again. From this position, hands on the butt, I might suggest that you either close your eyes or let them glaze over. The purpose here is to remove all visual distractions. I want you so focused internally. I want you to put your brain in your butt to feel, to know that it's correct for you. So from this position, eyes closed, and I'm just trying to soften my hamstrings. I'm trying to shut them down. I'm going to squeeze my butt, and I'm going to really think, okay, all from here, make sure, and try to, once again, get 90% of that lift occurring from here, not from here or from there. So this is, as noted at the beginning, one of the most important pieces for your athletic success, because if you can't do this in a very controlled scenario, how are you going to do this in a more complex scenario? How are you going to do this when you're standing, squatting, deadlifting, jumping, sprinting? That this must occur for you to be the fastest that you can be, to jump as high as you possibly can. So it feels like a massive regression. It feels like, why am I spending so much time here? But until this becomes automatic, you're not going to be able to transfer this skill set to your other exercises. And as you'll see when you work through the squat videos, we talk a lot about, well, how do we use the glutes to create that vertical ascent, to push ourselves up? And that concept is applied across all of our major on-field components going forward.